Hey everyone, welcome back to From Clicks to Cash. Today I'm sitting down with someone who has done something really unique. He's built both a successful portrait photography business and a 125,000 subscriber YouTube channel by giving away his secrets for free. Here are the three most important things you'll learn from Joey Hernandez today. First, why one light is all you need. Joey went from 4-light studio setup to mastering speedlights and creating magazine quality portraits with really minimal gear. Second, the sensor ND filter technique that terrifies everyone, including myself, but completely transforms outdoor shooting. Joey breaks down why he puts ND filters directly on his camera sensor and how it gives him maximum flash power. And third, we've attempted to do a 3K and I think he was able to get it down to 1K portrait business blueprint. From Godox strobes to Viltrox lenses, Joey shows exactly how to build a professional setup without spending an arm and a leg. And he's from South Texas, as he calls it. He shoots in brutal heat and has been refining his craft for over a decade. His approach is all about minimalism, mastery, and sharing knowledge. I hope you're ready. Let's begin. Joey, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just in the morning, so it's like a little groggy, but other than that, it's fine.
Where you're if I looked it up correctly, you're in Texas. Where in Texas?
It's funny because I usually tell people South Texas, but I've started in the past couple of years saying South Texas because a lot of people think San Antonio, but that's actually 4 hours north of where I live. So I usually tell people basically Mexico. It's a small town called Mission.
That's a good way to think about it. I mean, Texas is like a country, right? When you say when I
Right.
think of, I lived in Connecticut for 30 something years. So when I think in terms of the state, it's like a province in Texas, probably.
Yeah, you can drive like 12 plus hours to still be in Texas.
Um, that leads me into my first question. And before I go into my questions, I just wanted to recognize you for hitting 100K on your YouTube channel. We'll show it later, but I know that's a huge deal. And my first question is this. So do you have like identity crisis? You know how you're like not a photographer and then you grow into it and eventually you're a photographer, I guess. With
Yeah.
YouTube, like are you a YouTuber now?
I would say yes, I guess, because a lot of people do still to this day, and it still surprises me. Like they'll message me every now and then saying, "Hey, I saw a video of yours just now, and it was really helpful. Thank you for this," and different stuff like that. And it's funny because those videos can be very old, and yet it's again, it still has its like a life of its own. But
Yeah.
I would say that YouTube has been the most that kind of gets my knowledge and my tutorials out there. So I guess I would be proud to say YouTuber actually. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Um, it's just I find it fascinating because I went through the same thing. I got to tell you, I was doing photography for like 6 or 7 years and still had a problem calling myself a photographer. So understand
Yeah.
the identity crisis, and your audience, my audience, probably same experience, right? Um,
Yeah.
I always I always start with the question of like, so Texas, were you born in Texas? Where are you from? So tell me like let's go back in time a little bit and tell me, where were you born? When did kind of photography enter your life? For me, it was pretty late, like when I was probably 28, 29. What was it in your case?
For me, well, I actually wasn't born in Texas. I was born in Michigan, a very, very small town in Michigan. And I think photography for me kind of just sparked when, because I actually moved a lot, like a little too much, like I think more than 15, close to 20 times in my life. And when I was younger, it was a lot. And I think whenever we would go to like a local like CVS or Walgreens, when my mom did a lot of different business that required her to go there for some reason. But I remember seeing the disposable cameras and wanting to capture that. And then so wanting to capture moments in my life. I just wanted to document. And then so I asked her, if I can get a disposable camera one time. She said yes. And then I think what I really liked about that was kind of just having, I guess, it's trying to think about what to document ahead of time and then being very selective with the shots. And I think that aspect of it, of making sure these moments count, was really kind of something that stuck with me, and it kind of like just had that spark there. And it wasn't immediately jumping right into buying cameras and stuff like that. It was I was like 10, I think, at the time, maybe 9. But I always loved that part, and that kind of really ignited that spark in photography, and that's what kind of reignited years later.
Yeah, I'm curious. Interesting. Wow, that early. But I'm curious. There's almost like, I think of photographers. I put them in sort of like three buckets. One is, there's some photographers that are like super artistic but know nothing about business. They don't really want to sell their stuff. They're just kind of good quietly, right? Live quiet life. Some are like good in business but kind of suck with photography, and so that they have to actually focus more on photography work. And there's people probably in the between that are like trying to figure out how to do it, how to like monetize their skills. Where do you think you were? Like, were you experimenting with photography, you knew that you were good, and then you just kind of pulled the business aspect of it, you just wanted to make money? Or was the intention, for me it was like making money was the first thing, and then I needed to bring my art into the picture? Where do you think you fall?
I definitely fall into the one where I'm not the best at business. I kind of got better at that over time. But
Mhm.
I think what was really important to me was, because I was really like enamored by photography in the documentation process in the early stages. Then I thought, with digital, when I started to get into digital stuff, and I could, not be as selective with the pictures, I started to think about how can I make the photos better. And I think the quality of the photos was something that was early on, where I really wanted to kind of make sure that the photos actually look good. And so then I tried to make sure that the work looked good before I started to charge people. So I would definitely say that, definitely not the best at the business, but I got enough to, good enough to the point where I was happy with what I was making. But definitely the quality. I guess that bucket with the artistic,
Yeah,
part being more kind of important to me.
yeah.
That's definitely where I would fall.
Awesome. Um, the the next question is, so you're experimenting, you're playing around with the camera, maybe taking photos of, I don't know, neighbor, somebody you know. When is that first kind of moment when you go like, holy crap, I can probably make money with it?
I think when I started to, and it's funny how my mind works, but when I was in college, I invested in like I think it's 4 light kit,
Wow.
from Posse Buff strobes.
Mhm.
And I thought for some reason, okay, this is like a big studio setup, kind of, lighting setup. Now you can charge. But like for some reason prior to that purchase, I was like, I was thinking that I still needed to learn, still needed to do this or that. But when I got that lighting set up, and I was like, okay, now I can charge. I don't know why, but I felt like it was such a studio setup that now I can have a studio. And I
Yeah,
actually did get a studio for a little bit,
yeah,
and then I started to charge more in there at
yeah.
that point.
So I'm nowhere near as good as you are with portraits, and I'm just curious, if I took that pro kit, right, that gave you the permission to call yourself now professional, right? If I had that pro kit and you had two strobes, do you think you can recreate that work with, it's not going to be the same, obviously, but like, can you get to the results with something simpler? And I'm asking from the context of like somebody starting out, maybe they can't afford the like a super expensive fancy stuff. Can they do a decent enough job where clients are going to be happy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What I always tell people is that when the way that I learned like lighting and even photography was the worst. So when it comes to the lighting part, I bought gear that I thought that I needed to get the quality that I was trying to aim for. But it was funny because I invested in that light kit, and then I think it was within a year, maybe a year later, where actually, now that I think about it, a year and a half later, where I started to really kind of experiment with speedlights and
Mhm.
seeing what they could do. So I went from entire lighting kit setup, studio strobe setup, to speedlights, like a hard, was it 180? And I was really liking what I was able to create with those speedlights, and they were very cheap, like $50 to $60 speedlights. And so I think it's definitely possible to not invest too much money at all, and still get great results. So it's definitely possible. That's what I would say. I kind of it was definitely the definition of overkill when I first got my lighting kit, that 4 light setup. I definitely would recommend and suggest people to start with one light and then see what you can do with that, and then start to add on there. But yeah, you
Yeah.
can definitely save a lot of money. You don't have to spend like an arm and a leg for good lighting.
Yeah, I one time I kind of went down the rabbit hole on your YouTube channel, and I went back, and at one point you were posting a lot of photos with like the one light setup, and to me it looked like a very minimalist. I still kind of see you like as being a minimalist. Like there's not 14 lights on the shoot. Like even his videos, I saw you doing something scary. I know. I think it's your intro video on YouTube when you talk about ND filter that you put directly on your sensor. Oh
Yeah.
man, my heart stopped for like a second. Um, is do you do have a comfort level? Obviously, have you been shooting with those ND filters like directly on a sensor for a while now?
Yeah, so I actually started using those, I want to say, in either August or September 2019. So those filters, I was exposed to them pretty much that year, but I started to invest in them a couple months after I got, exposed to them. But they're super, like, I still use them to this day. And I actually am going to make a video soon going over my bag for 2026. And
Mm-hmm.
that filter is still in my bag it's specifically for the A7R3 and those similar cameras. But it's super super convenient for me because the short way to explain this is that when you use a fast shutter speed with flash, you lose a lot of power just by the design of high speed sync, just how it works. But using an ND filter allows me to use every little bit of power in my lighting. So main reason why I wanted to mention that is because I love that I'm able to use smaller gear, like you said, minimalist, smaller gear to get the images that I really really like to create. So I definitely take I use and recommend that sensor ND filter, and I know that it is scary. So I usually do have like an alternative like recommendation for an ND filter, the regular one that goes over the lens. I have that ready to go, but I definitely love that filter still. That's over the sensor, which is scary. But I'll be honest with you guys, like I put it on and it's not a worry anymore or at all. And that it might fall into the wrong spot. It kind of has like a kind of slightly oversized, so it doesn't fall in there. You'd have to kind of challenge yourself to actually hit the sensor. So it's safer than it looks.
Not sure if you can mention the company. Can you mention who you use?
Oh yeah.
Where you source them?
Yeah, the company is called STC Optics.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I wish that they did differently was start to become available like on Amazon and B&H and Adorama, but they still have it. You have to order it directly from the website. So I always tell people like expect to wait, I think, a week minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully not more than 2 weeks, because yeah, they take a little bit of time to get to you, but they're worth it.
Yeah, cool. Um, we know your story, kind of know how you started, kicked off photography. Let's look at your work because that's really what I wanted to showcase to my audience, and then you can walk us through some logistics and tell us how you sort of spray that pixie dust over your clients. Really phenomenal. So let's switch to photos. Um, do you want to kick us off and tell us about this, or do you want me to ask questions first?
I'm curious if you have any like question, like one forefront question that you have about the image, but I can definitely break it down if you want me to.
Oh man, we could probably do 4 episodes just with my questions for how you do stuff, but I'll keep it simple. I'm logistics. Very basic. When you show up on the shoot, I always see this is your wife now, right?
Yeah, my wife is holding the light. Yeah.
Is she on most of your shoots?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that because, like, I think of every single photo shoot that I've done, she's only missed maybe two or three.
And the reason
Yep.
why is because when I do weddings, I work with my wife, and she probably did 98% of the weddings. so
Yeah.
So I understand. It's nice to have that second person. So do you, when you guys are on the shoot, logistic wise, are you technically the boss or?
I'm definitely the boss because I am very, let's see, I'm very particular with how I
Yeah.
shoot. I always want to make sure every second counts, and I'm also very particular with the lighting,
Mhm.
like even like maybe an even in as simple as an inch of lighting difference, like
Wow.
is very particular for me. Just because I'm not sure if it's like a subconscious thing where I think I'm seeing a difference in the image quality image or the lighting, but I'm pretty positive I see it. Like it could be like so small of an adjustment, and I'm like okay, like a little bit more, okay, a little bit less.
Yeah.
I'm very particular, very
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah. And she can handle the heat. Well, I mean, you're in a great relationship. What else can I say?
Yeah.
um, as far as the logistics, so you show up with your wife. What do you guys carry? Like when you pack before you leave home, do you take extra stuff, extra cameras, extra lights, or is it just two lights, one camera, and then you're off?
You Before I answer that question, it's funny because that specific photo shoot, I recorded so much behind the scenes footage from that,
Mm.
like pre-shoot, during the shoot, and then a little bit after, I believe. So much, and I recorded it all, and I was mic'd the entire time. I need to work on that because I actually intend to sell that video because it's like so much of like the entire process. So I can give you guys like a good amount of information for free, of course. I just realized it sounds like I'm selling that. I'm not selling that. I'm just letting you know that that's something I need to work on already. But I have that all ready to go. But yeah, I do have I do always want to bring a backup camera because it's kind of scary that that location was actually an hour away from me, so it would suck if I didn't have a backup camera and I had to go back and time, it would be sunset already. So I had a backup camera. I used the A7R3 as my main camera, and I have the A7 IV as the backup camera. And I did actually bring backup lighting as well. So I actually brought some continuous lighting that I didn't end up using, and I think I brought extra strobes as well because I was just really really happy with the fact that that shoot actually happened because it was supposed to rain that day. So the fact that it didn't, and the outfit looked great and the sky looked great, I was really hoping for that case, and I had like plan B and plan C just in case anything went wrong. But yeah, I definitely do carry a lot of stuff. I have like a long extended cart that I bring to my photo shoots. When I have a lot of gear.
Mhm.
Recently, I bought a short cart, but I always use a long cart just to have all my gear in it, and then like a little bit of space for like the model to put a bag or her phone or some other stuff there too.
Did you ever run into a situation where one of those Octas? This looks like a medium, it's like a smaller size Octa, but like I've seen you use big Octas too, big soft boxes.
Yeah.
Ever problem with those falling in the wind?
Yeah. So one time, and it sticks out like a sore thumb because I mentioned that I used the policy buff strobes back in the past. I was never found a fan of the way that you mount the softbox to the light. I'm not sure if you have any experience with them, but I hate it actually because you have to pinch the top of the light. You have to pinch it, and sometimes it could hurt your fingers, or at least I'm a weak guy, whatever. But you pinch it, and then you have to put the softbox on there, and then hope that it's in there right, and then
Yeah,
release.
yeah,
And one time when I was at a beach shoot, which was a little windy, and I put like a 40, I think it was a 48-inch
yeah.
softbox on it, and I guess I really thought that I put it on right, but I guess I didn't. But then I guess the top, because it's like four prongs, two on the top, two on the bottom.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I guess I didn't put the prongs in the bottom right, and then so it flew off, and I chased it. I chased it, barely got it, and so yeah, I was like, I'm not a fan of this mount. If I ever get the opportunity to have something else more secure, I'm gonna take it. So yeah, I mean, I would tell them to their face. I was like, you guys suck with that mount. Like, I really did not like it. It hurt my fingers, and it was so scary.
I relate with the story because I only use alien bees,
Oh
those
yeah,
like
yes.
they mount, and I have to tell you, I always in the church I use one of those big ones like you're describing, the 4236 or whatever it is, and it same thing. I thought it was mounted, and I elevated really high, and I have people in church standing around me,
Oh
and
my
it
god.
like I'm always petrified, is they gonna fall or you know because it is kind of wonky. um, about this image. So let's see the result. Your second image here. This is the final result now.
Mhm.
How do you make it so like creamy and just match the your light, your softbox with the surroundings. Like it just artificial lighting. It almost seems like the artificial lighting is not there. Like well, I know it's there, but it's so like you're matching the color. Do you have an by the way? Do you have an editor or you do most of the work yourself?
I edit all my photos myself because, like I think I mentioned with the photography and the lighting, I'm very particular. I
Yeah.
wish this could be something that I'm like I delegate, but I'm so like I want it to look a certain way, and that's why I edit my own photos. But yeah.
Yeah. I gotcha. And how long did it take to like develop technique like this to get to this point?
Whew, that's a good question because it like my the way that my journey of editing started was not wanting to edit at all to over editing, and I think it took like about maybe a good 3 to 4 years of me kind of like fine tuning different things, learning this tool in Photoshop, learning that tool in Lightroom. So if I gave somebody like a quick crash course, they could probably learn it like in a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, learning what was always a struggle was learning the techniques and the name of the techniques because you might know that you want a certain thing but not know what to call it, so you can't really look it up. But yeah, it took a while for me to learn how I would like to edit and the fast way to kind of speed up that workflow.
Yeah, let me pull on that thread then, because you said if I was to sit with somebody, they can probably learn it with an hour. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Are you gonna have something eventually available? Like, did you ever think about it? Because I mean, I'm sure people will be interested in learning this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely, like one thing that I want to do a lot more this year in 2026 is not just provide the stuff that I would always provide for free, but think about what can really truly helpful, I mean, be helpful to people to learn. And kind of like you said, you're business oriented first. I wasn't, and I've never been. So I'm trying to kind of tune my way of thinking this year to make it seem for me like it is going to take a while to kind of record and make sure that this videos look good and all the stuff to make sure that people learn very well. But
Mhm.
that takes a lot of time, like a lot of time and a lot of patience. And because of that, that's when I start to feel more comfortable charging for that. So I definitely want to make a video course of editing and a video course on just how I would do my photo shoots in different ways because it's there's so many different ways to do a photo shoot. But but I definitely do want to start providing more super helpful stuff, but of course also charge for that too because it takes
Yeah,
a
of
lot of
course,
time.
and that makes sense. I mean, it takes time to get to this point,
Yeah.
right? Um, so let me switch to the next photo here. This is another one, tennis court. Um, the question on this, so when you show up, how long, like an average session, right? I'm sure some are longer, some are shorter, but like on an average session, how long do you spend with a model on the shoot?
So I try to be very efficient, and usually I don't like for me in my own personal I guess way of wanting to use my energy. I guess I think an hour to hour and a half is usually where I'll be happy at. That, but it's actually funny because with this shoot, it was like the same around amount of time that I usually try to do a shoot. I think it was an hour and a half. In the last shoot, the first one that you showed, that one was the longest shoot I did this year, and it was I think or last year it was I think 3 hours 20 to 30 minutes, which is it's too long for me. Like I usually do shoots much faster, but I made an exception because I was like, okay, this is an hour away. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful location. It's a beautiful outfit. Everything aligned that day. So then I was like, you know what, whatever I can think of, I'm gonna aim for it. And thankfully, the model, like I tell the model sometimes ahead of time when I really want to like make sure that I have wiggle room in terms of the how long
Mhm.
the shoot is gonna last. I made sure I was like, you have nothing to do after this. I don't want to kind of go. I don't want
Yeah.
to have to prevent you from doing something. But that was a long photo shoot. But usually it's only like an hour to hour and a half. I think if I really needed to be efficient, I think 30 to 45 minutes would be fine. But
Mhm.
I like the little bit of breathing room with an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Um, and my next question here was because you said the model. I mean, we as photographers, we usually refer to just regular folks as models, right? But like most folks, and I don't know how it is in your case, you can tell me about it, but not everybody is a model, not everybody is in front of the camera all the time. So
Yeah.
the thing with your photos, which I kind of hate you for, is that everybody looks like a model. And I was just like, hey, how is Joey like positioning them in this? Does he do like 100 poses and like 3 are perfect, or is it just that this is just an inborn skill that you have? Tell me more about it.
I think over the past like 6 years or so, maybe seven now. I have worked with models heavily, but I still do post a lot of client work. I think on my website, which you showed up, before we started recording, that still has a lot of my client work. But I think what really kind of comes into play in getting the images a certain way is that I've gotten more comfortable with posing the subjects and also making them feel at ease, because that's something that I was definitely not the best at in the beginning, and you could tell in the early, my early work, that it needed improvement. But yeah, making sure that the subject feels very, very at ease, and making sure that not not necessarily every single pose out there, but poses that are either safe for that type of subject. For like a guy, a wedding, you have
Mhm.
certain poses.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting better at posing and making them feel at ease, plus lighting and all the technical aspects. I think all that comes together to make sure that the photos look really good.
When we do weddings, sometimes we use cheat sheets. Literally, sometimes we
Oh,
print ideas for photos and we try to experiment, right? And then if something doesn't work, we just throw it away. If something works, we incorporate it then for the next wedding or the weddings. Do you have like a mental cheat sheet that you follow on the shoot?
yeah, so I think what really helps me is actually visuals. Like I kind of want to emphasize that, because everything that I do and why I create so much content, like on YouTube and on my Instagram and my Facebook, I'm very much a visual learner myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people out there, before behind the scenes photos came to be more popular, I was
Mm-hmm.
doing it like very, very, very early on, like
Mm-hmm.
2011. So because I'm very much a visual learner, and so when I go to my photo shoots, sometimes I'll have like a mood board of like what more or less what kind of photos I kind of want to recreate and make my own. So I have them saved probably on my phone, and then I'll kind of go into the shoot kind of thinking, okay, I have these ideas, but what can I play with in this area, in this location, and make my own. And
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes if I'm feeling a little stuck, then I'll get the phone out and I'm like, oh yeah, was a good pose. The way
Yeah.
that the face was turned this way and the lighting was hitting it this way made it a good pose for this reason. So I try to incorporate those ideas and those visuals into the photo shoot. Yeah, and some people, when they kind of think about bringing out photos at a photo shoot, they kind of feel like they're like losing confidence in the client. But I disagree. I think like if you have a visual for them to pose, it can
Mm-hmm.
help them figure out, oh, okay, maybe how to position themselves better by having a visual aid.
Yeah, totally. And for us, it's the same. I have to tell you, when we do weddings, it's we never stage the subject, so we never kind of put the hand in a certain place. It's more of like a visual cheat sheet. Hey, here's what we're attempting to do, because
Yeah.
everybody like hugs differently, kisses differently, or sits differently. So it's more like guiding with the goal in mind rather than staging and like positioning our subjects.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
is the next photo. It's unedited. Talk to me.
Yeah, so with that picture,
Mhm.
I specifically had 100% crop that says unedited there, because a lot of times, and I think it's very much because AI is getting more and more popular and more mainstream now, that over the past like maybe year and a half, close to 2 years actually, where every now and then I'll get a comment saying, "Oh, that's AI, that's AI, that's AI," and and then just at first I was like, oh, okay, they're not sure what they're talking about. And then over time, I guess people got more and more confident saying that's AI. Stop lying, that's AI. And so then I was like, you know what? Let me share a photo that I really like, that I enjoy. that is completely unedited because I love editing. I love having that final kind of look applied to the photo. That's my look. And but then I was like, you know what? Let me share an image that was completely unedited. So I shared that on my Facebook, and I was prepared just in case people were going to be like, that's AI. What are you talking about? So that's why I got that 100% crop. And that photo is actually from 2019. And I specifically wanted to get a photo that was, had a couple of years on it because I feel like AI got, with photography, for photo AI photos, high resolution AI photos gotten more popular over the only within the past 2 years. So then I was like, let me go further and get a photo from way back, a couple years
Yeah.
ago. So I got that photo from 2019 and shared that one. And I was like, you know what? This photo's before AI got popular. It's not AI. AI looks like my photos, not my photos look like AI.
Yeah, totally. This is the editor version, and then you have a setup photo here. The this light that you're using, I think I've seen it on your YouTube video, and it's kind of, is it one of those lights that are like super easy to set up? You just kind of
So
like,
that right there, that softbox, that was before they started to come out with those other ones. But it's
uh
still pretty easy to set up. It's like you open up like an umbrella. But the other ones I think you're referring to, those ones came out in the past like 2 years. But that
oh,
one's 6 years, 7 years now. Oh my gosh, yeah, 7 years.
time flies, buddy.
Yeah.
Um, where are you guys here? Is this like a local market or something?
So I was actually in Dallas. I never really traveled there because I think it's a good 8 hours, maybe more, maybe eight
Yeah.
to 9 hours away from me. But I was in there to do a couple of photo walks
Uh-huh.
in the town. But then from the people that purchased a photo walk from me and and joined me on a photo walk, I thought, you know what, that this fair or carnival, I don't know what people, I think it's called Texas State Fair,
Hmm.
but I think it was happening during that time that I was there. So then I was like, you know what? Maybe I could create something from this, event that's happening. And I was very worried that I was gonna get kicked out because I don't usually bring gear, like a cart full of gear to,
Yes.
an event like this. And they had even a metal detector and stuff. So I thought they were gonna just, deny me right away. But
Hmm.
then they're like, no, they just took a brief look at it and they're like, oh, okay. And then they just let me in. They didn't say, whether you're gonna shoot, blah, 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 all the typical questions that you might ask that might get you kicked out of a business or around a business. But I just wanted to create something there, see what I could do. And I was really happy with that image there. So yeah, that was a Texas State Fair 2019 as well.
Was it a professional model? She feels almost too comfortable for shooting at the fair.
Yeah, so she isn't a professional model.
Mhm.
She did live in the area, and that's why I reached up to her. She actually used to live in my area, and I
Uh-huh.
shot with her here. And then she moved there, and I think it just worked out like a couple months later to half a year later, where I knew that she was in town. So then I was like, let's see if she wants to shoot, have fun at this, state fair and take some
Uh-huh.
images, and she was down.
Gotcha. With the weather, are you able to shoot throughout the year, or does it get actually cold to the point where nobody wants to be outside and model?
So that's a very good question, but you're pretty spot on. I could pretty much shoot like all the time. Like it's very rare that it's rainy here and
Mhm.
cloudy, and it's very rare that it's cold.
Mhm.
So those conditions I actually love when I'm not shooting. Like I love the cold, I love the rain, I love cloudy days.
Yeah,
But that's for like when I want to be lazy and like to watch a movie
yeah.
and be cozied up in my room. But I'm very spoiled here with all the amount of sun that we get and beautiful, locations that we have locally. But yeah, so I can shoot pretty much like I'll say 98% of the year I can shoot.
Yeah, yeah, and it's for Texas, because sometimes people think it's like, oh, it's nice to shoot in the summer, but like for Texas, you guys, it gets so hot in Texas that you you probably avoid it same way as the cold weather, right?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes I forget, but like I tell people I suffer at every photo shoot that I do. I I'm not sure if it's because I'm from Michigan where it's cold and I love the cold,
Yeah.
but my body cannot stand the heat for nothing. Like even after being here half my life now, more than half my life, because I moved here from Michigan to Texas at 15, and now I'm now 34. So I I thought my body would eventually get used to it, but no. If I go outside, and actually right now it's very very rare because it's actually a cold front right now here in Texas where I live. But usually it's like 88 to 96 is like its usual temperature. But right now, I think it's something like maybe 60 something,
Hmm.
69 right now, which is
Yeah.
very, very rare. Like it's not common at all.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Totally.
I suffer from my photo shoots.
And I got to tell you, because I was in Connecticut for a very long time. We moved to Florida. I'm in Florida right now, but the winters here, I thought I would be able to shoot throughout the year, but like Floridians, even when it's like 52 outside, they still call it a winter. So it's a little
There you
different.
go.
In the summer, we don't suffer as much as probably you guys in Texas, but it still gets hot. So, but we still get to shoot throughout the year. When when things go smooth, they go smooth. Obviously, life is good, but like let's talk about disaster. So you already told me about like chasing a light, right? The softbox or anything like, yeah, you've been shooting for a while. Something must have happened, like either a gear failure or something, or you lost cards, or tell us, because a lot of people are petrified. Like, what with if things are going well, they're going well, but like if something happens, like what could it be, like the worst case scenario? So I always ask photographers. I lost my cards. Fortunately, I was able to find them with the flashlight one time. But like in your case, any disasters?
So I do have some to share, but what I would say is thankfully they're not very there's not a lot of them, not of those times because I think in like maybe in a past life I was like a Boy Scout because I think what their motto is like always be prepared.
Yeah.
So after every photo shoot, even though it's like not recommended, I always charge everything, like every single thing that I'm using, like the lights behind me. Thankfully the light that I'm using as a main light here is not a one that needs to be charged, but I charge everything all the time. And I think the times where I wasn't as prepared as I should have been was I did, I think, Valentine's mini sessions, I think 2 years ago. And for some reason, my battery was dead. My battery was dead. And it was so embarrassing. So I didn't have my backup camera because I thought that was prepared, And so I think I went down 8 minutes down the street to get to a Best Buy and bought a battery and then came back. And I don't know about you, but I just had the assumption that at least there would be like a third of the battery, a fourth of the battery, ideally something at least half, but they don't know. It was dead too. So I was so disappointed by that. I was like, why would this battery be dead on arrival? But that was one. And I think the other, like one of the other times I can think of that was very, very scary was when I don't do a lot of events lately the past couple of years, but I still do them occasionally as a second shooter. But when I did them as the main shooter, I
Yeah.
think it was something like 2017, maybe 2018, where I did a wedding, and I don't know why to this day, but I thought it was April 21, not April 12. So I thought it was the whole 9 days later, and it was not. It was on the 12th. So this is where it came in handy that I have all my stuff, usually charged, completely. But that day, I remember waking up and I had my phone in silent or something. But then I woke up, I checked my phone, and I had like nine missed calls from the bride, and my heart like that. It still gives me nightmares because like that was like the biggest and most noticeable time where I went from sleepy to completely awake and then some because it scared me so much. I was like, oh my gosh, did I miss this wedding? Like it's the bride, it must be her wedding day. I had so many thoughts going through my head, but again, super thankful that I had all my stuff charged and ready to go. But yeah, thankfully the times where like I was really completely out of luck, those are times I think where the things that go wrong might be the subject or the day of the photo shoot rather than my gear that causes like any sort of issues.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, because yeah, I usually do try to have like a plan B and C in terms of my stuff that I'm, responsible for. So usually it's like if something goes wrong, it's usually on the other side, like
Yeah.
location not being available or the model being, one time I think I'll just, add this experience is the one time the model was sleepy and I underestimated how that much it would, impact the photos.
Yeah.
And so that whole photo shoot was unusable because of her looking so tired in every photo. It was just
Wow.
like so sleepy. And I was like, okay, I learned never to really ask somebody to model for me if they did like a whole shift of photo shoot and lack of sleep because it's
Yeah.
not going to show up good in the images. So that was another kind of bad experience.
Yeah. As you were telling the story with with the wedding, I totally resonate with you, and I kind of my soul cries inside because I know the feeling. We laugh about it right now, but I know the feeling when something goes south, and like for clients it's probably easy to judge that it's a mistake, he didn't do something, but like I know we try and life happens and we're humans, and with for me 17 years of doing it, something will happen eventually, like
Yeah.
it just will. And the best, I always tell people, I'm like, just you're a human being, approach the client, be transparent, be honest, don't try to cover anything up. And my experience, at least in the last 17 years, people understand because we're all people.
Mhm.
You mentioned the model, because I asked you about the gear failing, and now you mentioned the model failing, not failing, but not being maybe and available. And I'm just curious, like, uh, most of when we say models, so how would you say most of your folks that you photograph are just regular people? They're not professional models. Is that true?
Yeah, so I would say that they call themselves models,
Yeah.
but I worked with models that like are professional and have agency, behind them. But usually, what I recommend or what I prefer actually is to work with people who look okay. They look great. They have a good look to them, but they aren't really represented because I feel like that can kind of maybe that's how I say it. They don't appear as natural in the images when I take photos of them if they got used to posing a certain way and certain looks and trying to look professional. So I try to work with models who are more natural, like very like you said before, like they may look good, but they look like professionals. But I do
Yeah.
my best to kind of get them to that point because these are people that could definitely have, and I've seen bad photos taken of them, but I do my best to not ever do that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it says a lot about my skill, to take these photos of these people and make them into images that they'll be happy have being in those images. But I still did take a lot of pictures of people that aren't necessarily models. I just what I always found crazy is that for people who do this full time and do not doing models at all, like is every client totally fine being posted online in certain areas? Because I always find maybe it's a me thing, but I always found that to be something where I'm not like I don't want to push on the client to it's like, hey, can I post this picture here, can I post this picture there, and even though I think it's a good image of them, maybe they just they're more private. So I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing when people post whatever image they take online wherever they are. So
Yeah.
I'm more
Yeah.
selective, I guess.
And I totally see that, like the models, the folks that you're working with, the girls, you kind of have to be mentally present, you kind of have to be an inspiring model, or somebody that at least likes the idea of somebody taking a photo of them. um
Yeah.
have you ever had a situation where like model would show up and she would be like, I don't know, maybe you have the pose and she's like, I don't know, I'm too self-conscious, can't do this, or like what do you do in that situation? Do you just change the pose, location? Do you like tell a joke? Do you call her mom and like what's the remedy?
So one thing I would say even before the shoot begins that I've run into an issue before is the outfit. I had one bad experience years ago, and I think this is 2015, maybe 14. I think it was 2015. But where the model, like it wasn't necessarily, again, it's not a model. It was but she was somebody that wanted some photos and was available, and I wanted to shoot and try some techniques out. but I just assumed that people would match the kind of environment that we're shooting, which was a field, a nicely beautiful field. And when she arrived to the photo shoot, she looked like she was ready to go to the club. And I was like, this does not match to me. Like it's not something that I'd be happy to continue the shoot with. So I kind of like, internally I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not happy with this, but let me continue. But that was that was an experience where that was wrong. But for the actual, location and the model, um, let's see. I think my very first photo shoot with the model, which was a male model, was so many things went wrong. Actually, I forgot my light stand. So my wife Ashley was holding the light the entire time.
Yeah.
And what else went wrong? Oh yeah, I told them that he was the first model that I worked with, and it's so crazy because I remember my wife as well noticed this, but you could see like he was talking to me fine, and then I told him, "Oh, you're the first model that I work with," and then his face just went changed to like I'm not confident in your ability to take a photo anymore. Like it changed like night and day, and
Yeah.
yet I took the photos as best as I could, and I remember feeling very very proud that when I delivered the photos, he was happy with them. And then I think it was like 2 years later, somebody left a random comment on the album that he uploaded from the photos saying,
Mhm.
oh, these are so great such great photos. And he's like, yeah, I'm still very happy with these after years. And I was like, yeah, like you didn't have any, confidence in me, but you love those photos still. But yeah. But I think the last thing I'll say about models and not being ideal. One time I worked with one where it was a younger girl. She was like 17, like 16, 17. And it was like her mom writing some pictures, and I was like, you know what, I can work with different ages. Maybe work with somebody who's like a teenager and see how hard or difficult it would be. And she was very very nervous, very very
Yeah.
nervous.
Mhm.
And you could tell like it was, I tell people it was like deer in the headlights kind of look, like very much like very very nervous in that kind of way.
Yeah.
And I remember what really, really helped, because you mentioned an icebreaker, was I think it was around fall, and we don't really experience fall here, but I think for some reason like a leaf fell, and then I was like, oh, a leaf falling next to you is kind of like Pocahontas, and then I can't remember if I mentioned Disney. I think I might have said like, do you watch Disney movies? And I struck gold with that question because she was a big Disney fan, and I'm a big Disney fan as well.
Yeah.
And so then we talked for like not even maybe a minute, maybe closer to 2 minutes,
Mhm.
and about I think Moana, the movie Moana, just came out, and we talked about different things for within again minute or 2 minutes. The picture prior to asking her that question and
Mhm.
after that question,
Yeah. Yeah.
very different person, completely
Oh,
different person. She was much more relaxed. So that was really cool, and I was really happy with that.
yeah, that's cool. She stepped out of this photographer framework into like he's just a regular dude. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, the next section I usually ask, like there's a couple categories, and I ask folks like, hey, pick 2 out of 5 or or out of 6 or out of 7, whatever it is. This one, I want to make a deal with you. How about you pick one and I pick one? Because there's like 6 or 7, but I'll read them out loud, and then you pick which one we're gonna stop, and then I'll just stop at, and then I'll ask a question, then I'll point at one, and then I'll ask a question again. So it's really key insights, and we just kind of focus on one. We zoom in onto like maybe it's mindset, which is number one. Number two is camera. Number
Okay.
three is editing. Number four is client interaction. Number five is business. And then we have like AI automation stuff and personal brand. Which one do you want to tackle?
I think the AI automation, I think you mentioned, I think
Yeah,
was that one. Yeah.
interesting. All right, let's talk about AI. So first, do you use AI in any part of your workflow? I know you mentioned a lot of manual editing, but I'm asking anywhere. It could be chatbot on your website. It could be CRM automation sends out notifications. It's not just AI. It's like AI slash automation. Do you use that as part of your business now, or not yet? Or
Yeah. So over the past, I want to say 2 years now, maybe slightly more. I've been using a program called Evoto. That's
Hmm.
Evoto. And prior to using that, like again, I did manual editing for such a long time,
Hmm.
where I knew like more or less like because of again me being particular about how I want a photo to look like, that it would take this many minutes or that many minutes, and when I was very particular about a photo, it could be like an hour to 2 hours, casual editing 2 hours, but like me kind of focused an hour, maybe 45 minutes of time to edit one photo. And I do YouTube, and sometimes I'll share like a behind the scenes video, and I usually aim for like 15 to 20 images in that video, and that would take a long time.
Hmm.
So, but over time, when I started to figure out about different programs, I heard about Evoto, and it was kind of like a program that I was like, I had seen the similar programs, and then they never really got a desire, like a look that I was really happy with, a result that I was happy with. And when I tried Evoto, I was like, it gets me close enough, like 85 to 90% close enough to where I would want it to be happy, happy with the result. And it sped up my workflow so much. So
Yeah.
there's some stuff I do in Lightroom, but I feel like those are kind of quick things. But then Evoto is gonna be the one that I use now, and I still use, where like it really helped speed up the amount of time that I was retouching. Like, cause yeah, it's like slider based, and I have like presets that I made for myself where I just apply them and then just retouches it,
Hmm.
and then I can kind of focus on just removing any sort of big distractions in Photoshop. And that's another area where I use AI, because they have a generative fill tool where like you can like use a lasso and just select a certain area and hit remove, and then it removes it. But I definitely take advantage of that program called Evoto, and that feature in Photoshop called generative fill. Those are probably the biggest ways that I use AI. I don't really use it too often. Maybe Chat GPT for like
Yeah.
advice on here and there,
Yep.
but I think I don't really utilize it as much as I could. But
Hmm.
I'm happy with the amount that I use it for. I don't want it to kind of encompass my entire
Hmm.
life.
Yeah.
At the moment, maybe if it speeds up and makes everything efficient in
Mhm.
terms of YouTube scripting or something, maybe.
Yeah.
But I use it for those two areas mainly.
It's interesting what you said about like using partially the software lever, using that leverage. I was so I was in, and I'm not trying to convince you. This is the disclaimer. I'm not trying to convince you, but I was for about 11 or 12 years. I was just the my mind mentally. I was kind of where you were, where was not able. I wasn't willing to give up the whole like aspect of editing. You
Mhm.
know, thought of myself as a unicorn, and nobody could do what I do. But I'm gonna challenge you. So here's the thing. So I've been doing this for years and years, and then you hit sort of a not plateau, but a limit with the business because there's only one Joey, and if 100 clients come in, knock on your door, can you handle the traffic, right? And it's not, I don't look at it as like binary black white, you have to use AI or don't. To me it's more of a slider of like kind of where you are. And I remember I used an editor, and I gotta tell you, still not happy. Me personally, not happy with where it fell. But when I approach my clients, it seemed like I kind of had to crack my ego a little bit, but it seemed like they cared more about speed in a lot of cases
I agree. Yeah.
over the quality. Like I saw the quality, I saw the differences. They did. I don't. I'm afraid they didn't. Do you think you'll ever push that slider more to like, well, maybe I'll give it a shot with like 5 clients? Because what if they don't notice the difference? Like, would you ever give up, or do you think you're gonna stay that boutique route of like, hey, I just serve this amount of clients and I'm happy with it, and we're not gonna go that route?
Yeah, I think such a good question, because I think 2026 might be like the year where I start to delegate the editing more and more,
Yeah.
because there are certain things that I kind of aim for, and they can be like vague enough to not be too vague, but kind of more or less guide the person that I might hire eventually or not, um, to kind of where I would want the result to look like. Because
Yeah.
it's not anything like super crazy that I do. I'll just I like to have highlights not overblown unless they call for it, which I don't really think is the usual case for my stuff.
Mhm.
But I like an even exposure. I like saturated color, not too saturated. I have a certain look that I kind of aim for every single time that I edit. So I think yeah, I think maybe maybe this year is the year that I hire somebody to edit my photos, because there are, and I'm not sure about everybody else, but there's times where like I mean to edit a photo sooner than later, and then it gets later, and I didn't mean for that, and then another shoot happens, and then I'm
Yeah.
playing catch up.
Oh,
So yeah, I don't want that to happen more.
and the thing is, nobody, we're not trying to steal it away from you, Joey. It's just you can almost have a package, right? Like a super platinum Joey hands on. This is my personal edit. This is like an editor edit or something. But the other category was business, and I'll ask a question here because I have no idea how you price or contracts, or is there like a model release from a business side? What goes into it? Like, do clients actually write? They sign contracts with you? Like, they sign contracts with me for weddings. Do they do the same with you, or is it just model release?
Yeah. Yeah, so early on, I think it was like when I just started, I had a super bad experience with a my wife's cousin. And I'm glad it happened, also not glad it happened because I just don't like confrontation. But I remember it was like a kid's birthday party at a pizza place locally. Um let's say Chuck E. Cheese, basically. Um, and I remember saying, yeah, I'll cover it for like $100, and I'll put all the images on the CD, and I'll deliver the CD to you. Um, and after the experience happened, and that's because I went above and beyond. Like that camera, I had just gotten that camera and it recorded video when I had a previous camera that only took photos. And then I was like, you know what? Let me record clips of family members saying how they remember the moment or future advice. I just went above and beyond. And then after the experience, she said she hated the photos, that she expected them to look like studio photos from pictures at a birthday party at a pizza place. And that's because I edited that video together, rough cut of everybody saying that
Mhm.
happy birthday, this one, blah blah blah. And even I think I ended it with the parents saying words of advice and stuff, because it was like his first birthday. But it ended up being such a nightmare. Like I don't even have those photos or video, and that's because I saved like all my photos and stuff from all the whole time I started photography. But I deleted those photos. I can't remember what time of the year that was, because it was such a bad experience. She said she wasn't gonna pay me, that the photos were bad, that the audio and the video was terrible. I'm like, hello, that was for free. I just added that for free. But it was such a bad experience that it made me want to be very cautious going forward. And it was like my first client, my first paid client ever, that first one.
Oh, oh, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so, yeah, it was like not even 100. It was like $50, I think I charged. And it was
Oh my.
like 2 hours of coverage and all the photos on the CD, whatever. But it basically it told me, okay, I need to have a contract to protect myself from
Yeah.
nightmare experiences like this. So yeah, I do have a contract for clients, because, and I'm not so particular about this, but I know that a lot of people, a lot of photographers, they'll give the photos to the client, and then they'll edit them bizarrely, like very very much not how you want it to be represented. So I have that in my contract as well, to like not do anything crazy to the image in terms of filters and stuff like that. But I do have a contract just to make sure that I think that it's kind of like communication. Like it could go wrong if you don't have it, or if you're not very clear about things you can and can't do. So I have a contract that's kind of like it's kind of like a guideline, kind of like hey, don't do this, if you do this, maybe reach out to me first. But I have a contract for that protection. And
Mhm.
then I think what was the other part of the question? But like I definitely have a contract because I want
Model
to
release, model
oh
release,
yes,
but it's probably part of the contract.
Yes, yeah, it definitely is because but with it, with my contracts and stuff, I usually try to tell people ahead of time, like before the contract even like appears. Like I try to have like a phone call with them to talk about how the shoot's gonna go and what they intend to use it for and what I intend to use it for, so that we have like a good communication base. So that if they do something, I'm not surprised. If I do something, they're not surprised. So I have that communication first. I think communication is super important, and then you can bring in the contract, and then everybody signs it and is happy.
And as far as, because somebody watching may be like, okay, so I understand I have to have a contract model release and like pricing, and I don't want to talk specific pricing because it's different depending on where you are, depending on what you do. But like I'll use headshot photographers, wedding photographers. We all do the same thing where we have limited by time or limited by options. For headshot photographers or corporate, they may be doing just a basic headshot with, or they may be doing something with like brand related, which is more expensive. Do you
Mhm.
also have packages for your clients, or is it just one sort of?
Yeah, I think I have like three packages, but I think I remember years ago. Again, I think it might have been 2011 when I was really trying to learn more about the business. A photographer that I have as a friend now, that he had said something about like make sure that the top package looks more appealing for this and that reason. So I have that as well, where like the basic package is basic, and sometimes people that's all they want, and then you have the middle one which only has a little bit of things extra more, and then that top package, that third tier, has like so much more, and then you feel like you're kind of like surprising them with the price. They're like, oh, all the extra stuff for just this much more. So that's the one that sells the most for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's like that third package.
makes sense. All right, let's switch to a quick fire. So what we're gonna do here is I will be asking questions, and it's a sort of a gut feeling response, yes, no, quick answer. We don't have to go deep.
Mhm.
So I think I have like maybe 10, maybe 15 questions. I'm just kind of curious, and I will be all over the place. So
Okay.
ready?
Yeah.
All right. Favorite lens for your shoots? You can only name one.
35 millimeter 1.2.
Got it.
Godox. Yeah.
Biggest lighting fear? Is it the wind? Is it the battery? Is it the camera? Like, what are you afraid of when you're on a shoot?
I think the battery being dead because I love Flash.
Got it. Octa, or softbox, or beauty dish? Do you ever use beauty dish?
I Yes. I would say Octobox. Yeah, Octobox for sure.
Octabox. Okay. Um, if you had a dream client and you could choose between like an influencer, celebrity, or like a local, I don't know, governor, or somebody local, what would be your choice?
I think a celebrity. I'm not sure exactly who, and it's so crazy because I think we have to answer quickly that I'm blanking out. But there's like
Yeah,
certain
totally.
favorite celebrity actors that I have in my mind, and I probably would want to shoot them.
Interesting, because it really depends. Sometimes when people are like more business oriented, they go local, but for as far as the reach, people, some people say celebrity, so it's just interesting. Um,
Yeah.
when you're on a shoot, pre-shoot, post-shoot, coffee, monster drinks, do you do any energy boosts?
I'm actually very rare in that I don't like to have anything consumed in me. Anything. I don't want to be burping. I don't want to be passing gas or anything. So I want to avoid any sort of anything that could influence that. So I'd rather starve and be clear, and then after the shoot, just eat up a storm.
Yeah, I get it. If a model goes, I'm not photogenic on the shoot, like what's your go-to? What do you normally say?
I think I tell people that most people aren't photogenic, or depends on the mood of how playful they are. Then I tell them like you're not photogenic to other people, but for me and what we're gonna do today, you're definitely gonna be photogenic, and it's just be playful really helps the
Yeah,
mood, and I think that will help.
totally. One modifier you would save from fire. You can only grab one thing.
34-inch beauty dish from Cheetah Stand. Yeah, it's more like an octobox, but it's called a beauty dish. But I
Yeah,
love that softbox.
I gotta say it. What was the name again? Say it again.
The 34-inch beauty dish from Cheetah Stand.
Cheetah stand. I gotta look it up. The as far as platforms, Are you on Instagram, Facebook, and well, you're on YouTube and Facebook. Are you on Instagram also?
Mhm. Yes.
If you had to choose one platform, which one would it be?
Oh, it's funny because it for a while it was Instagram, but I feel like over the past year to 2 years, they punish you for just posting. Like and also the engagement's super low. So I'd rather post on Facebook. I've been growing so much on Facebook lately that it's like the most I've ever grown on anything in the past couple months is on Facebook right now.
Would you say it's consistency or
It's consistency, and I think also the fact that they prioritize reels right now. Like
yeah,
one reel popped off, and then they're like, I got a notification saying that they're gonna push my content more, and I noticed that it did. So I've been happy posting on Facebook the most.
totally. When you talk to client, when people reach out to you, the question is like how many DMs turn into paid shoots. So from the people that reach out to you, like what percentage book? Is it 50%? Is it 10%? Is it 80%?
I feel like it's a good to like I was gonna say 50, but like more like 60%
Yeah.
because I try to talk to them conversationally. And
Hmm.
I think I'm not sure what their experience is with other people who they reach out to, but I feel like it's maybe more business kind of structure. And I talk to them, I'm like, oh yeah, what kind of photo shoot you looking to do? And blah blah blah. Try to keep it like that. And I think they kind of respond well to that. So I would say like 60%.
Yeah. When you're with family, do you drag gear with you or do you just pull out your iPhone or Android or whatever?
I definitely bring some gear, but I'm very selective with the gear. So I'll bring like a super portable setup so that I'm not, breaking my back over, taking some good photos of them.
um, where do you find, so I know your wife works with you most of the time, but like where do you find an assistant? Let's say somebody's looking for, a person to hold the light. Do they have to have some special skills or could it be just anybody?
It could be just anybody, and like I always tell people that I'm very fortunate to have my wife helping me. But if I did not have her, then I probably would have plan A, B, and C of assistance wise, either sandbags, boom arms,
Yeah.
or asking the subject or the client to bring a loved one or family member specifically to assist with the photo shoot.
Yeah,
So
no, that makes sense. We have talked about AI. What was the other tool? I asked about the AI tool. But from the software that you use day to day, if you only had to keep one, what's the at the core?
I think Evoto.
Photo.
That's the one that I'm using more and more often now.
Okay, cool. Um, quick, probably reaching into the future. We've talked about you possibly maybe looking at for an editor. ND filters, and I don't know why this question. Maybe because I'm still traumatized by you putting an ND filter on a sensor, but so do you? This is your way of shooting. This is how you will be shooting with ND filters on a sensor. You don't use the other ones.
Um, I I have a preference for them, but there are times where I use the normal over the lens filters, uh, because one thing that you can't do with the sensor ND filter is you can't change the intensity. So sometimes that will be in the way when there's clouds moving over the sun and changing the exposure, and I don't want to have to change my settings dramatically.
Mhm.
So there are times where I will use regular over the lens ones because also they'll have another feature which isn't available on the sensor one, which is like a circular polarizer. So I have some that have variable ND filters plus circular polarizers, and there's times where I'm like, I want the benefits of that more so than the convenience of having the ability to change my lenses easily and have that sensor still be on. So yeah, there's times where I use the normal ones too.
Yeah. In terms of the future, Joey, do you have like a piece of equipment, something in mind that you're like, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it this year. Is there something on your Santa not Santa list because we just passed Christmas, but on your
Yeah.
wish?
So that's a good question because I'm pretty content with the gear that I have at the moment.
Yeah.
But if you like, I guess it's a wish list. Is that because I work with the Flashpoint slash Godox lights right now,
Mhm.
and I just would love to be surprised with like a very portable, strong strobe. Even though they have some like that right now, I would love to have somewhere just like it's just like something I didn't even think of. Like
Yeah.
lots of power, smaller body somehow, but that would be cool.
Yeah, and you know, it's good that you mentioned Godox. Like, I remember there was a phase where they were entering the market and it was kind of new, and people were like, "Is that good enough?" And we then find out it's pretty. Like, do you swear by Godox right now? Do you think it's sort of a lesser quality equipment, or do you feel pretty confident with them?
I think when they first entered the market, there was, for one, a lot of people wouldn't know like how long they would last because they just entered. So how can you tell? And
Yeah,
so a lot of people thought they would be disposable, and especially because of the price and what they offered, like it would seem like too good to be true. But I can tell you for a fact, after using them for I think already 10 to 11 years now, that that's a long time. That they work. Like I'm not sure how other people use the gear. I'm not super gentle with my gear, but I have my very first strobe that I got from them still works. I have the ones that came out, later. I all of them still work. I think the only one that ever went wrong was one light, and that's because I let somebody borrow it and then returned it broken. So that's the only thing that really went wrong with that gear for whatever reason they dropped it, whatever. But
yeah,
I think they're really great strobes, and I'm actually really like I recommend them all the time for good reason. So
yeah,
I think a lot of people just assume that because they're not super expensive that the quality is lower, but I think when it comes to lighting, like you can spend like again like $60, $50 on a speed light and have very good results, rather than buying the $1,200 speed light from
yeah,
a certain pro company and having a similar result. So
yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I'm happy with the Godox slash Flashpoint stuff. I'm super happy with it, and they actually have some innovative lights that not other companies have. So that's why I use them. Like the 300 Pro, that one's a good light that I use all the time for different reasons. But the 200, the very first 200, that was their invention, and then other companies, copied that, and so that was an innovative light. So I think they're very innovative.
I gotta tell you, I'm budget oriented too. I'll switch just for 1 second to this image, just so to show like the audience the mic, mono mic, right? PD 200, PD. I don't want to use the PD 200W. I gotta tell you, I was skeptical, got it, love the quality, very happy with it. Less than $100 in comparing to 399 or so.
Yeah,
Price is not always, the like, you shouldn't be looking as the price as the only sort of sign that, of quality.
I agree.
So I agree with you. And one more future question for the business. So are you staying with pretty much with the models portraits? Is there like I don't know, senior photography, seniors meaning like the high school seniors in your future, or have you ever thought about it, or are you staying where you are and you're pretty happy, pretty
No,
content?
that's a good question. Like it makes me feel like you're a psychic, because that's a focus that I want to get into more this year,
Yeah,
because a lot of people tend to think that I only do work with models,
yeah,
and that's not true. I just I I get to play around and have more fun with the model sessions, and that's why I post them more, because I find them funner for this reason and that reason. But I still do client work, and I want to focus more on senior portraits, because I feel like that could not only be fun for me in different ways and make me want to post those more too, but
mhm,
also they could, thinking long term, they could kind of go into wedding photography, like that senior gets married with their high school sweetheart. They could lead into maternity photos because they start the families, and it could lead to so much different things that I think that's a good starting point. And it also has the benefit of like where they can listen to you, and they won't be crying or need a snack, or sleepy. This it's not a baby photo shoot. It's not kids can be unpredictable and hard to kind of what's it called, wrangle. But senior portraits, they should at least hopefully they'll be more cooperative at that photo shoot. So I do want to do more seniors, because I think it'll be fun and they'll lead into more jobs.
yeah. I've had a photographer. We were doing an interview recently with Seishu. He's a headshot photographer from Connecticut. and he does a lot of portraits, but it's very selective. He doesn't do value. He doesn't just go to like a local high school and does plenty of seniors. It's more like private schools, selected schools.
Mhm.
So it works for him. It's still like a boutique. There's seniors, but not too many of them. So he kind of controls the dial that way. All right, last question. And the question is, it's not really a question. It's more of a challenge. Somebody's showing up and says, "Hey, Joey, I have 3K in my pocket. I want to start whatever you're doing, right? And what's the advice? What do you tell them to, like? Okay, do they keep the money? Do they spend it on camera? Do they spend it on lighting? But rent a camera? Like, what would be the advice from you?
I would tell them that the camera, if it like, there's a lot of older used cameras from even like 7 years ago, like I think 8 years now. Because one of the cameras I recommend all the time is the Sony A7 III, because it
Mm-hmm.
was like such a good camera, and it came out 2018. So that's seven, almost 6 years now. I think 7 years is good. But
Right.
like that camera can be found used
Yep.
and barely touched, no low shutter count, for like a couple $100. So I think that's a good camera to get. And then the lenses nowadays, with the like, I'm a Viltrox ambassador, and the only reason why I became an ambassador for them is because I love their products. And
Mm-hmm.
basically they're great quality lenses at lower prices, and it's basically like the Godox of lenses. Like, they
Yeah.
work so well. And I think that that would be the recommendation for the lenses. And then
Mm-hmm.
the lighting, I think I would go with Godox Flashpoint. Like, I think under 1K, even just 1K, I could
Mm-hmm.
put wrangle together, equipment that would be amazing for them to use for years. So
Wow.
yeah.
Cool. We're done. We're done. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. This was super helpful. I got to tell you. I hope it's going to be as helpful as it is for my audience. There will be helpful for yours, because there's a lot we have covered, from business
Yeah.
to equipment to logistics. So thank you again. I'm so happy that you decided to join me. I really
Yeah, no
appreciate
problem.
it. Once again, congratulations, happy new year, and hopefully we'll get to do it again one more time. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, where do they find you? I have a couple things here. Can you tell us where is the best place to hit you up in case they wanted to connect with you?
I think even though I don't really post a lot on Instagram, I still do reply to messages a lot on there. So I
Okay.
think if you want to reach out to me on Instagram, or if you prefer Facebook, I think those are the two biggest ways to contact me, because
Mm-hmm.
I think the website kind of removes my personality, to the point where, like, it kind of adds that little layer of like resistance to the photo, to hiring me. So I
Yep.
always tell people my Instagram and my Facebook feels like a more personal, and so I feel like it's going to be easier to book the client, I guess. So
Yep.
I feel like that's a good way to contact me. But if you're a photographer and just want some advice, you can always message me, and I'll do my best to reply sooner rather than later.
And then, of course, you're sharing a lot of stuff on your YouTube channel. This is what should the handle? FJH Photo.
Yeah, youtube.com/fjh photo, and then fjh photo is pretty much everywhere.
A lot of tutorials, editing, lighting tutorials, behind the scenes tutorials. Definitely a place to check out. And then, of course, your website. Eh,
Yes.
Thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.